of 12687 MHz and a symbol rate of 30,000. Stay connected to the heartbeat of West Africa. WADR. We are your trusted voice across the region.
Listen to WADR's program
every day,
all the time, in Mali, Niger, The Gambia, Burkina Faso, Guinea,
Benin.
You can also follow our programs in Ghana, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, Togo, and across Senegal. Don't miss our daily news bulletins, Newslink, educative and informative programs, and lots more. West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM. It's you speaking.
News, talk, music, get it all. 24 hours on West Africa Democracy Radio. 94.9 FM Dakar.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
6 p.m. in Dakar and Monrovia, 7 p.m. in Abuja. Good evening. Welcome to Newslink, live on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM and worldwide at WADR.org. Here are the top stories. Regional Maritime Security Conference gets underway in Banjul with calls for cooperation to protect West Africa's marine space.
The same maritime environment is vulnerable to a range of security threats. For instance, IUU fishing, drug trafficking, human trafficking, irregular migration.
Malian authorities alarm over rising threats to humanitarian operations in the country. Liberia's opposition accuses government of political witch hunt as former Vice President Joe Howard Taylor faces drug-related charges.
We will stand up to the guns. The irresponsibility of this government must come to an end, and they have to make sure justice is transparent.
In Guinea, the Ministry of Justice suspends Algasumu Jailo, or prominent prosecutor in the September 28 massacre trial. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Thank you for being with us. We begin in the Gambia, where Navy and Coast Guard leaders from the Gambia, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, and Cape Verde are meeting to discuss shared challenges of maritime security. They are calling for stronger regional cooperation to protect West Africa's maritime space. The Gambia Armed Forces are hosting the event. Rose Samarakates in Banjul reports.
At the center of the discussion is the need for real-time intelligence sharing, coordinated surveillance and joint patrol. Officers say illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing remains a major concern for the region, affecting fisheries, food security and the livelihood of coastal communities. Drug trafficking and other forms of organized crimes also continue to exploit maritime routines. The Gambia Chief of Naval Staff, Commodore Sambu Barrow, highlights that threats facing the region does not stop at national borders.
The same maritime environment is vulnerable to a range of security threats. For instance, IUU fishing, drug trafficking, human trafficking, irregular migration, maritime pollution, piracy, armed robbery at sea, and other forms of transnational organized crimes.
The conference also supports the wider regional maritime security framework, including efforts under the Yawande architecture to improve information exchange and coordinate response to maritime crime. Sambu Barrow says for the Gambia, strong maritime security is particularly important because the country depends heavily on its coastal waters for fishing, trade, and other economic activities.
Your presence here today demonstrates our collective commitment to strengthening maritime security and keeping our shared maritime space safe, secure, and conducive to sustainable economic development. Our maritime domain is fundamental to the economic and social well-being of our nations. Our waters provide access to international markets, support fisheries and other economic activities, facilitate the movement of people and goods, and provide living for millions of our citizens.
According to authorities, the conference is expected to strengthen occupational cooperation amongst the four countries and reaffirm a common approach to securing West Africa's maritime domain. The message from Banjul is clear. Regional solidarity, shared intelligence, and joint action are key to keeping West Africa's waters safe and protecting the economic activities that depend on them. For WADR, Rose Samara Cates, Banjul.
Turning to humanitarian issues, the Malian transitional government is calling for greater protection of humanitarian workers amid rising threats to aid operations across the country. Health and Social Development Minister Ansal Bajalo Toure appealed on Wednesday in Mopti in commemoration of the World Humanitarian Day theme, Art for Humanity. Located in central Mali, Mopti remains one of the most volatile areas, with armed groups carrying out attacks and kidnappings, while humanitarian workers have also been caught in the violence. Details with Abdullahi Hassan.
Speaking in Mopti, Health and Social Development Minister Asa Bajalo Toure paid tribute to humanitarian workers supporting communities affected by conflict, displacement and disasters. Toure said more than 1,100 humanitarian workers were targeted worldwide in 2025, including 2 in Mali. Last year, the country recorded 814 incidents restricting humanitarian access, up from 574 in 2024, representing a 41% increase. According to the United Nations Humanitarian Agency, OCHA, at least 71 of those incidents involved violence against aid workers, humanitarian property or infrastructure, including assault, theft and attacks on facilities. One of the deadliest incidents occurred in July near Timisa, where 2 staff members of a local NGO were killed while transporting food to displaced families. 2 others were seriously injured while their truck carrying 40 tons of food was set ablaze. With insecurity worsening, concerns are growing that attacks on aid workers could further disrupt access to life-saving assistance. OCHA estimates that 5.1 million people in Mali will need humanitarian assistance in 2026, while the National Response Plan aims to reach 3.8 million people at a cost of nearly $578 million.
Abdullahi Hassan with those details. Meanwhile, in Ghana, citizens may have to brace themselves for continued power disruptions in the coming weeks as the government works to address the latest national grid failure by next month. The latest collapse, the second major system failure in less than a month, has renewed concerns over Ghana's energy security, with an energy analyst warning that the situation exposes weaknesses in the country's transmission infrastructure. In July, a power system disturbance on the national transmission network caused electricity outages across the country. Elik Plim Awuku in Accra reports.
Parts of Ghana were plunged into darkness this morning after another major disruption to the national power grid. The Ghana Grid Company, GridCo, attributes the latest system failure to a fault on the Akosombo Volta transmission line, which was badly affected by the previous incident. The Minister for Energy and Green Transition, Dr. John Jenapo, is pleading with Ghanaians to remain calm as repair works continue.
Let me appeal to Ghanaians that please bear with us. It was a very complex situation. We needed to think outside the box and come up with an innovative solution to hold power stability.
He says the latest interruption is linked to ongoing works to restore the damaged transmission infrastructure, with the government expecting the rebuilding works to be completed next month.
When we had a major incident at Akosombo, engineers working around the clock have improvised a system to supply power from Akosombo. But because it's a temporal measure, occasionally when there is some frequency disturbance, it takes off Akosombo immediately to protect the system. The work that is being done is expected to be completed just next month.
But energy analyst Benjamin Insia says the repeated failures point to deeper weaknesses in Ghana's transmission network. He warns that without urgent restructuring and investment in the Akosombo Volta transmission corridor, Ghana could face growing energy insecurity as electricity demand continues to rise.
A major challenge for us, especially in the Akosombo Volta line, is population growth. That has also increased consumption of electricity beyond the capacities of the transmission line to carry this particular load. At any point in time that there's a system overload, the transmission line will face a challenge.
The latest collapse comes less than a month after the previous national grid failure, raising fresh questions about the resilience of Ghana's power transmission system. Energy sector stakeholders are therefore calling for sustained investment in critical infrastructure to prevent the recurring disruptions from developing into a wider crisis. For WADR, Elikli Mauku, Accra.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, elsewhere in Guinea, the Ministry of Justice has suspended the Prosecutor General at the Supreme Court, Agassimou Jallow, a prominent figure in the trial over the September 28, 2009 stadium massacre. Jallow's suspension comes amid recent concerns raised about the handling of the trial and acquitted of key accused persons in the deadly incident 16 years ago. Those acquitted include former junta leader Captain Musa Dadis Kamara, Colonel Bienvenu Lama, and Ibrahim Kamara, also known as Kalonzo. Imo Edit has the details.
In the suspension order dated August 18, Justice and Human Rights Minister Ibrahim Sori Tunkara cited Jallow's alleged failure to comply with his statutory obligations as a magistrate. The order does not specify the alleged misconduct but refers the case to the Superior Council of the Judiciary for disciplinary proceedings. Jallow previously led the prosecution at the Dixon Court of First Instance in the trial of former junta leader Captain Musa Dadis Kamara and other former officials. The case revolves around the massacre of the 2009 stadium event that resulted in the death of more than 150 people. Several women were also sexually assaulted. Agassimou Jallow was appointed Prosecutor General at the Kankan Court of Appeal in November 2025, before later becoming Prosecutor General at the Supreme Court. The suspension comes under the authority of Justice Minister Tunkara, who previously headed the Dixon Court during the massacre trial before becoming President of the Conakry Court of Appeal and later Justice Minister. The disciplinary process will now be handled by Guinea's Superior Council of the Judiciary.
Imo Edit with that report. Liberia's former Vice President Joel Howard Taylor will today spend her second night at the Liberia National Police headquarters as authorities intensify investigations into an alleged transnational narcotics network. Taylor was intercepted at the Roberts International Airport on Wednesday morning while attempting to leave the country and was immediately detained by the National Police. She was on the same day charged with multiple offenses, including drug trafficking and money laundering. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker reports.
Taylor, now in police custody, faces 8 charges, including alleged unlicensed importation of controlled drugs, criminal conspiracy, and money laundering. Justice Minister Oswald Tuor says the charges fall under Liberia's Controlled Drug and Substance Act of 2023. Taylor is not the only suspect in the investigation. 2 Croatian nationals and 1 Ukrainian have also been charged in absentia over their alleged links to the network. The case has now moved beyond a criminal investigation and into Liberia's political debate. Opposition figures, including the chairman of the Coalition for Democratic Change, have accused the government of pursuing a political witch hunt.
Both the Minister of Justice and the police IG have alluded to the fact that there are current officials. We want to see them. We're demanding them to publicly arrest those current officials. We will stand up to the guns. The irresponsibility of this government must come to an end, and they have to make sure justice is transparent.
While some Liberians want the investigation to proceed without political interference, others are demanding evidence that the case is being handled impartially and that the law is being applied equally. The investigation follows Liberia's largest ever drug seizure on July 21, 2026, when cocaine estimated at $317 million was intercepted at Roberts International Airport. For Newslink on WADR, Ibrahim Parker, Monrovia.
Elsewhere in Togo, the President of the Council of Ministers has carried out a military reshuffle a move that has attracted attention and wider conversation about the motive. However, Foreign Nyasengme says the shakeup seeks to restructure the country's military and strategic security institutions. The changes affect the General Staff of the Togolese Armed Forces, the Army and Air Force Commands, and the National Intelligence Agency, all of which now have new leadership. Christopher Aticho completes the story.
Togo has announced a major reshuffle of its military and security leadership, with several senior officers appointed to new positions. General Chakpali Akleso has been appointed to Brigadier General and appointed Chief of Staff of the Togolese Armed Forces, leaving his position at the National Intelligence Agency. Colonel Lantiambe Kombate, former commander of Operation Gujare, the military operation securing Southern Region, has been appointed head of the Air Force. Senior officer Idrisu Abdul Ahabu is leaving the National Civil Aviation Agency to take charge of the Air Force, while Mama Esomolam, a brigadier general in the Air Force, becomes head of the Civil Aviation Agency. Meanwhile, the National Intelligence Agency will now be headed by Colonel Akakpo Alewalani. Observers describe the changes at the top of Togo's military command as significant, particularly amid persistent security challenges in the country's northern southern region, where attacks by extremists have raised concerns in recent years. The appointment announced on August 17 are being viewed by some observers as a sign of confidence and stability between the President of the Council of Ministers, Foreign Nyasengme, and the Togolese Armed Forces.
Christopher Aticho with the details of this report, filed by Ida Bajo in Lomé. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Regional Maritime Security Conference gets underway in Banjul with calls for cooperation to protect West Africa's marine space. Malian authorities alarm over rising threats to humanitarian operations in the country. Liberia's opposition accuses government of political witch hunt as former Vice President Joe Howard Taylor faces drug-related charges. In Guinea, the Ministry of Justice suspends Gatsimu Jallo, a prominent prosecutor, in the September 28 Stadium Massacre trial. We also have the guest interview and the sports news, so please stay with us.
Bringing you the facts beyond the headlines from Monrovia, Liberia. This is Abraham Parker. Stay tuned to WADR 94.9 FM Dakar.
Thank you for staying with us. We are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook at WADR. In Nigeria, campaigns for the 2027 general elections are officially underway, setting a stage for a major battle for control of the country. President Bola Tinubu's APC will be defending its hold on power, while opposition parties, including the ADC, PDP, Labour Party, and the NNPP, seek to unseat the ruling party. WADR's Usma Umar reports.
With the campaign season officially open, political parties are expected to intensify their mobilization and begin selling their programs to voters. For public affairs analyst Stanley Onyekwere, the All Progressives Congress already has a head start in deploying both media campaigns and grassroots mobilization, while opposition parties such as the ADC, PDP, NNPP, and Labour Party appear constrained by limited resources and weak political organization.
So with me, I'm baffled that you have opposition parties. None of them have come up with any campaign plans. The APC, they are doing door-to-door campaign, which means very soon we'll start expecting or seeing them knocking at our doors, campaigning for the president.
For politician and analyst Favour Ishembe, the challenge is more fundamental, alleging that key state institutions such as the Electoral Commission have been compromised, claims that ruling party and institutions have repeatedly rejected. However, analyst Daniel Tiokwa says the ruling APC's structural advantage does not guarantee victory, as voters could seek alternatives due to economic hardship and insecurity. But he warns that money remains a major factor, particularly among vulnerable voters in rural communities.
When we return to democracy in 1990, money has been taking the central role in any political activities. But the way things are, in 2015, a lot of money came out, but money did not work out during Jonathan. And it's something that, except if you're a good student of history, We will not forget that issue easily.
As campaigns gather momentum, the battle will therefore hinge not only on party structures and resources, but also on whether opposition candidates can build a credible national alternative and persuade voters to prioritize issues, competence and accountability over short-term inducements. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Still in Nigeria, the humanitarian crisis is deepening, with the United Nations warning of worsening food insecurity, malnutrition and disease outbreaks amid declining humanitarian funding. Marking World Humanitarian Day, UN resident and humanitarian coordinator in Nigeria, Mohammed Malik Fall, called for greater support for millions of vulnerable people and stronger protection for aid workers. Veronica Jai has more in this report.
Mohammed Malik Fall and UN humanitarian teams visited nutrition and cholera treatment centers in Maiduguri, where they met health workers, humanitarian personnel, caregivers and patients. The UN says humanitarian operations in northeast Nigeria reached nearly 900,000 people in the first half of 2026, despite dwindling resources. In Borno State, government and humanitarian partners have treated more than 55,000 cholera patients, provided hygiene services to over 1 million people, and chlorinated more than 500 water points. Fall says aid workers must be protected and allowed safe, unhindered access to communities in need. Despite the response, funding remains a major concern. The Nigeria Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan faces a $159 million funding gap for the rest of 2026, putting life-saving assistance at risk. Through the Nigerian Humanitarian Fund and the Central Emergency Response Fund, $135.5 million has so far been allocated this year. The UN is also urging greater domestic funding and stronger national leadership as Nigeria moves toward a more locally led humanitarian response.
Veronica Jai fight that report. Illegal gold mining is reaching worrying levels in Cote d'Ivoire following the discovery of more than 1,600 illegal mining sites across 29 of the country's 31 regions. In response, authorities have stepping up the crackdown, dismantling more than 1,000 illegal sites between January and July 2026. The growing scale of the activity is raising concerns among communities, particularly over its environmental and public health risks. Here are the reactions to the crisis.
Where I live in Beauville, my parents can no longer drink the water from the local springs. It is really difficult because substances such as mercury and cyanide are present in the water. These are extremely dangerous substances that pose serious health risks. We are all at risk because in 10 or 15 years, future generations could face serious difficulties as a result. This is a very dangerous activity, both for people's health and for the whole of Côte d'Ivoire. It is the lives of citizens that are at stake, and the government must act. Yes, it is illegal, but it is not really clandestine because the people involved are known. The government must take full responsibility. The government has now decided to take the bull by the horns. But so far, we have seen too much talk and not enough action. There are too many problems associated with illegal mining for us to remain at the level of theory. Concrete action can be taken to effectively contain this problem. It is possible.
Those are reactions towards illegal gold mining activity in Cote d'Ivoire.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, the acting prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Mam Manjanyang, has reacted to the decision by the three Alliance of Sahel states, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, to begin the process of withdrawing from the Rome Statute, a move that has reignited debate over sovereignty, accountability, and the future of international justice in Africa. Let's remind you that the AES countries first announced their intention to leave the ICC on September 22, 2025, before formally submitting their withdrawal notices to the United Nations Secretary General between the 18th and the 24th of June 2026. In this interview, Mam Manja Yang shares the ICC's perspective on the AES withdrawal, what it means for the ongoing accountability efforts, and the implications for victims and future of international criminal justice across the African continent.
I should say very concerning, because as an African, what I can say is that Africa was at the forefront of the establishment of the ICC. ICC count 125 member states. Among them, 33 of them are from Africa, making Africa the biggest group that constitutes the Rome Treaty, as we call it, or the ICC. To see that, I think that three Sahel Africans who have given notice to withdraw can only be concerning, because I think that we all know that we need international criminal justice. Mass atrocities have been committed in a number of places, and those mass atrocities need to be addressed. They need to be addressed so that that's the least we owe to the victims. And of course, if the state are not able or are not capable of addressing that, ICC is there just to fill that gap.
But they say that they want an African ownership of justice. How possible is this?
No, it's possible, and I think that this is where the misunderstanding starts. I think that the existence of the ICC does not call into question any domestic or regional court. They can exist alongside each other. And that's, if you want to understand what ICC stands for, ICC is really here only to fill a gap, particularly a judicial gap. If the domestic system is capable of addressing the need for justice, and if also a regional court is here, we will be very willing and very pleased to oblige, because that's really the heart of our mandate. Our mandate is really a stopgap mandate, to fill the gap if there is any. Yes, in fact, we are the very first one to encourage even the development of a strong judicial domestic system or even a regional system.
Mam Manja Yang is the acting prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. Get the full interview tomorrow on our special airings at 12:30 p.m. for repeat at 7 p.m. Now in sports, the second round of the African qualifiers for the 2027 FIBA Basketball World Cup tips off from August 27 to the 30th, with matches taking place in Dakar, Senegal, and Wadr, Tunisia. The fourth qualifying window will feature 18 games across Group E and F, marking the start of the second round of the competition. In Group E, Nigeria will face Cameroon on August 27 before taking on South Sudan the following day. Cameroon will also meet Tunisia on August 28 and later face Guinea on August 30, while Tunisia will play South Sudan. Cameroon heads into the window with an impressive 5 wins and 1 defeat, while Nigeria has recorded 4 wins and 2 losses. With South Sudan and Tunisia also in the group, FIBA says the upcoming fixtures could prove decisive in determining which teams advances in the race for a place at the 2027 World Cup. And that's the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Maudo Ju for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Curley. Good evening.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. in the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Graft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.